This video, we're going to add the hardware to your picture frame. You would have last time just stained your picture frame, so it's drying overnight in the shop. We're going to prepare that, so we're going to go grab our safety or picture frame first. Before that, we need to get safety glasses, then we'll come in with our materials and get set up and add our hardware to your frame. So we're going to come back and get the glasses. Yes, you're only running into get your wood off the shelf, but it's still an active shop. So safety glasses again. If you don't wear glasses, top 3. If you do wear glasses, bottom 2. Come in again, make sure we're clear and have permission to enter the shop. You're going to come over to this end section and find your stained frame. Please make sure that you actually double check the names on the frame paper towel here so you know it's yours. So what you're going to do is find your frame, do a quick check, kind of lightly, gently touch all the sides to make sure it's not sticky. If it's sticky, it's not dry. Probably just have you grab another rag and wipe it down. Mine is dry because I did a good job wiping it off beforehand. Before I just walk away and leave a mess here, I'm going to take my wooden blocks, my drying blocks. Those are going to go back up on top. And then I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to bring that in with me. As long as there's no stain on it and it's clean, bring it in. We can use that to help keep this from getting scratched. If it's got stain, just toss it. Okay, we're going to come back out and close it. Put our safety glasses back in the cabinet by the bows. And then we're going to come to, when we come in here for this project, you're going to need your ruler. It matches your table number. So for this video, I'm at table 10. So I'm going to grab the number 10 ruler. Make sure not to rip the nail out of the board, and it should say number 10 behind like it does. I'm also going to need a few other materials, but I'm going to set this down at the table. You're going to need the ruler. You're going to need a pencil for sure. Coming over to the workbench here, it has all the rest of the materials. You're going to need in this hardware box, you're going to need, and it says right here on the labels, you need 1 hanger, 2 hanger screws, 3 backer clips, and 3 backer clip screws. So I'm going to grab my 1 hanger. I'm going to grab my 1, 2 hanger screws. I'm going to make sure I have 3. Sometimes they stick into each other, so 1, 2, 3. I'm going to have my 1, 2, 3 clip screws. And one other thing I'm going to need is the screwdriver. Now these are all numbered. On the rack it has the numbers, and it's also on the end of the screwdrivers. So it has a 10 there, has a 10 there, stem, and I got it from spot 10. So I'm going to bring these over to my table, being very careful not to drop them, and run them around. Once I have these, I'm going to put my picture frame groove side up. So the groove, the back side of the frame, the groove is visible, and I'm going to set those right in the middle so I don't lose them. The last thing you need is tape. Now you have to decide before we get the tape, what type of frame are you going to have? Are you going to have it being portrait mode, so it's up and down? Or are you going to turn it sideways so it's landscape? So it hang by the side or hang on the end. You have to determine that. I'm going to show you an example of both here so we can get our measurements right. Okay? So we got the materials here. We're going to go grab a piece of tape. So at the table, there is the painter's tape here. Do not take the roll of tape to your table. You will only need about 4 or 5 inches. If you're not sure how long that is, I have a tape measure on my table. Just kind of hold it next to it. 4 inches is actually plenty on this one. I'm taking 2 simply because I'm going to show you 2 examples. You're only going to get 1 piece of tape. I'll set that piece off to the side for now. So to start this, we're going to decide what type of frame you want. For this one, I'm going to do landscape. So I want to go sideways. So what I'm going to do is pick I'm gonna look at my good side and pick which side I want to be the top and which one I want to be the bottom. I kind of like this one on top, so I'm gonna make that the top. Before I put the tape on, flip it back over so that I'm seeing the groove. I'm gonna take that tape on the side I want, and I am going to stick that down fairly evenly spaced, nice and straight as I can from the edge, so the spacing is the same and it's in the middle. Get that stuck down nice and gently so it sits flat. Okay, once we get that, we're going to show you the steps to get the measurements here. Once I have that, I'll show you on this example for the portrait style. So for both of them, what you're going to do is measure in from the top edge here. So I'm gonna flip this around so I can see it. We're gonna measure in from this corner, or from this edge, in 5/8 of an inch. To help you with that, you can grab your foldable out of your tub. That tub, if you remember, from the tub, you're gonna get your foldable here with our broken down inch measurements. We are gonna be looking for that 5/8 measurement here from 0. So imagine if you have that on your paper, you're gonna put 0 here and then measure out 5/8. So we're gonna do that with your ruler in 2 spots on here. So find the inch side of our ruler, it says inch. You're gonna put the 0 gently and very carefully on the edge of your wood so that you don't scratch it. It is a metal ruler. So you're going to get that right on the edge. You're gonna find your 5/8, which again, if you look at your drawing, is 2 lines past 1/2 inch. So we're gonna get this lined up on this end of the tape. I find my inch, there's my 1/2 inch. And I'm gonna go 2 lines past, 5/8 is right here. And I'm gonna put a little horizontal line here. I'm not pushing hard, I don't wanna make it deep. You can see I've got just a little line right there at 5/8. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other end, still on the tape, making sure I'm flush with the edge of the frame here. Find my 1/2 inch mark. And then I'm gonna go 2 lines past and mark my 3/8. Once I've got that, they should line up, and I'm going to very carefully draw a straight line. So put your pencil on the mark, line up the ruler. Again, don't push too hard or you'll dent the wood, and we don't want that. So now you can see I have my line, and it is 5/8 off from the edge. Now here's where it's gonna be different. That'll be the same on both of them, so I'll actually show you that here on this example. I'm gonna do portrait style on this one, doing vertical. It'll be the same process. Put the tape down nice and even through the middle, and then we'll do the same exact 5/8 measurement. It does not matter if you're doing landscape or portrait on this one. Again, lined up at the 0, on my 1/2, there's my 5/8. Put my mark down the other end of the tape, line up the 0 at the edge, find my 1/2 inch, 2 lines past is 5/8. Okay, and then I draw the line, again, pencil against there, lightly draw across. There's my 5" line there. So technically, yes, these will be the tops of them, okay? We have them upside down just so it's easier to see. So once we have that, this is where the difference is gonna be, because we have to find the middle of each side in order to center locate your hanger. So I'm gonna start with the landscape, then we'll go to the portrait style. So if you followed your directions correctly, this long side should be 9 inches long. So what we're gonna do is first measure that the 9 inches. So I'm gonna put on the side of my hanger I'm gonna put the 0 nice and flush with the corner. I'm gonna hold it right there at the corner. And I'm going to then keep that flat against the frame and check down here. So you can see that my example is exactly 9 inches or to the edge. Okay, so maybe a 64th short, a tiny little bit. It's right on basically 9 inches. So you want to find half of that. So if you do the math, half of 9 is 4.5. So what I'm going to do is set my ruler up on the line here, right up next to the line, so I know what I'm measuring straight across. And again, get my edge on the zero on the edge of the frame. And I am going to come over here and find the 4.5 inches. Sorry, so there's 4 inches. There's 4.5, and I'm going to put a little line going up and down. And I'm going to put a little, continue that on the other side of the line, so I have like a little plus sign right there in the middle. That is right in the middle of this piece. Now, if I was a little short, if I was 1 line short of 9, I could go halfway in between. So go 4.5 and it's a little half. If I was 7/8, so if I was a full 1/8 of an inch short here instead of here, then I would go a 1/16 short. So instead of 4.5, I'd be at 7/16. If you're not sure, check with me. We'll help you, okay? So that is the landscape. It should be 9 inches. We found 4.5. When you go to the portrait style, it should be 7 inches. So again, first we measure. So line up on the corner here, measure the whole end. This one is just a little short. So I'm actually a 1/16 of an inch short of 7 inches, which would be good. So half of 7 is 3.5 inches. So I'm looking for that. It is a 1/16 of an inch short. So I'm gonna be not at 3.5, but right in between 3.5 and 7/16. So again, line it up, make sure I'm along the line, make sure my zero is at the edge, and I'm gonna find my 3.5, which is if you were right on 7 inches, it should be 3.5 inches. Mine is just a hair short, so I'm gonna come right in between those two lines. Make my mark, continue that across there. So now that is my center location. All right. Once you have that, either again on landscape or portrait, whichever version you did, you got your tape there with your 5/8 line, you got your center marked. Again, on landscape mode or horizontal, it should be 9 inches long, so the center should be 4.5. You're gonna have to adjust that center measurement based on your wood. If it's a little short, you're gonna have to shorten back a little bit, okay? On your portrait style, it should be 7 inches long, so 3.5 should be the middle, but again, we'll adjust and do what we need to do. Once you've got that, I'm gonna just focus on my horizontal because the process is essentially exactly the same now. The measurement part is done. It's just eyeballing distances and then putting in screws. So we're going to then take our hanger. So we have our hanger here. You can choose whether you want it to be the alligator teeth are gonna go down. So imagine again, this is gonna be hanging on the wall. This hanger is what's gonna go on the nail to allow it to hang there. You can either go by the little 3 sections here or the alligator teeth. It matters not. You can swap it at home if you want. For this example, I'm gonna do the alligator teeth down just because I feel like it. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna flip this back over this way so we can see it a little bit better. I am going to take the clip here and notice the screw holes. We're gonna line up the screw holes on the pencil line. And now I'm going to take this vertical line that I made here. Looks like I need to make it a little bit longer so I can see it. I'm gonna use that to line up with the middle of my clip. So I'm trying to get a good camera angle for y'all here. Hopefully you can see. So what I'm gonna do is take the pencil line and make sure that is running right through the middle of my screw hole here. And I'm gonna make sure it's running right through the middle of my screw hole here. And then I want to make sure that that is going right through the center there. I am a little bit off, center. So I'm gonna go right there and right there. So what I'm gonna do is take my pencil very carefully, and I'm going to make a little cross right in the middle of that nail hole. I don't want to fill it into the bubble. I want a line, so I know a specific point where they cross. So again, I'm going to get that lined up over here. A little trickier because I am right-handed. And I'm going to cross that there. So now, when I take that piece off, I have my 5/8 line, my center line, and I got two little lines right there. Those are where we're gonna put the screws for this. So to change, again, that's the exact same thing you're gonna do on the portrait. It's exactly the same from here. So to set those in, we can't just kind of go ham. We want to, because we don't want this tape on there. So what we're gonna do is use the screws to mark a hole, remove the tape, put the hanger on. But since we didn't want to write directly on your wood. So what we're gonna do is take one of your screws. Notice the screw has a little plus sign shaped head. This is called a Phillips screw. There we go. So a little plus sign shape. So this is a number 1 Phillips. It's just the size of Phillips. Your screwdriver head also has that plus sign shape. It's kind of hard to see, but it is meant to slot directly into that so it sits in there tight. So for this next step to work, you're gonna have to stand up to be able to apply pressure. So what we're gonna be doing is putting the tip of the screw directly onto the center of that pencil mark, and then pressing down in to break the tape. Then we're gonna twist and turn. So remember, with screws, it's righty-tighty. So I'm rolling it clockwise as righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. We're gonna do both of those here. So what I'm gonna do to help set this up, I'm gonna hold my finger on the edge of the screw and the edge of the screwdriver. I'm going to stand up. I'm gonna have this back on my paper towel so I don't scratch it. And I'm going to set the tip of my screw right here on that mark. And I'm going to stand up and make sure they're straight up and down. Now, where it comes in standing, you're gonna take your, whatever your dominant hand is that you wanna turn with, put that hand on top. You're gonna push down with some force. So you're gonna push down and break through the tape, so push. Then while you're pushing down now, you're gonna turn it clockwise. So righty, tighty, and I'm putting moderate pressure. You'll feel and see the thread start to bite in. We want to go about halfway in. Once you got that hole started, we're gonna go lefty-loosey and back that out. So we have a hole there. We're gonna do the same thing on this other one. Again, set the screw with your finger, get it lined up directly on the center of the little crosshair mark. And then we're going to take our hand and press straight down and start turning to start making the hole. It should be straight up and down ideally. My first one was a little wonky. Again, once you get it so it sticks in there, back it out. All right. Then what we're gonna do is very, very gently, now we have our two holes, very gently peel this tape. You wanna go slow so it doesn't hopefully take off any stain with it. We went nice and slow, and we have our two holes right there. Once you've got that, this piece is done. Curl it up, set it to the side for now. We'll throw it away when we're done. What we're gonna do then is take our hanger clip, and we're gonna set that on top of the wood so that those holes go right through the center of the hanger holes, which they do. And we're gonna take our screws, and a similar thing, get them on the end of the screwdriver, set them with a finger. We're going to just start them. Now these ones are already started, so it's just a matter of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You don't want to go all the way tight at first. So I'm gonna go, so it's a little bit loose. You can see a little wobble on this one. I wanna get this second screw in before I snug them down, because I don't wanna risk scratching it. So I've got my other one here set. Make sure it's in there. Again, you don't want to scratch it, so getting the screw head in. Again, press down gently and righty-tighty to get that down in there. Make sure you're applying pressure. If you can't get that to go in, stand up on it. So I got that one locked in now, and I'm gonna get this one and lock it in. So now that hanger is on there. It is locked, okay? So I will hang this by the hook when I hang it on the wall. Don't do that with your screwdriver. I don't want you to scratch your stuff, but that's just showing how that will hang when you put it on the wall with the hanger. Next we're gonna do is get our clips. So on a real hanger, well, this is a real hanger, but when one you buy, there are little retainer clips that sit on the back that hold the picture frame in, usually just on the sides and the bottom. Some of them also have it on top. So their clips are gonna sit roughly in this position here. So the ideal is on the non-hanger side, you have the clips in the middle of that span. Now we're not gonna measure it, but you can tell pretty closely that this is not the middle. This is not the middle. This, straight across from the hanger, is pretty close to the middle. It's close enough. The distance we want to be in is about 1/4 of an inch, which if you look on your ruler is from this one numbered line to the taller line 4 lines over. We're not gonna measure that because we'd risk scratching up our frame. So what we're gonna do is actually use the screws themselves. The screws are just about 1/4 of an inch. They're just a hair over 1/4 of an inch long. So what we're gonna do is use the screws as the measurement. So I'm gonna start over here on this one, and I'm gonna find halfway approximately. So I might have to stand up again. But if I find halfway, that's right about here. So what I'm gonna do is lay the screw so that the head of the screw is on the edge. And I'll take that tip and I'm gonna stand it straight up. And just like what we did for the hanger where we made a partial hole, we're gonna start that here. So I'm gonna make the hole by pressing down, press down, and turn. Again, we just want it to start a hole, preferably going straight in. So it started, it's sticking out. We're gonna take that out. Now we have our hole located. We're gonna take one of our clips. Now there's 2 sides to the clips. There's the caved in side, like the little spoon, and then there's the bubble. We want the bubble side up. So what we're gonna do is put the screw through the hole, and we're going to very carefully, yay magnetic screwdrivers, we're going to very carefully put that through so we have it together like this. We're gonna set that onto the screw hole. Make sure it's located in the screw hole itself. And then we're going to drive that in. We're not gonna drive it in all the way. We don't want it in there super tight and scratching the wood. So right now we're just gonna push that in. Just kind of keep it a little bit loose. If you can't move it, just a little 1/8 of a turn, a little 1/4 of a turn, just so it spins right now. Once we get the glass and backer board in, then we'll snug it down. We're gonna do the same thing with the other ones. So we'll find our middle here. So again, find approximately the center of the space. Put the screw head at the edge of the wood and tip it up. Then we're going to put that force down on it and start that. Again, you may need to stand up to apply the force. As you're going, don't just smash it, because if this slips off, it is going to poke a hole into the wood. So I'm doing gentle pressure, and I'm using my other hand here to keep the screw straight as possible and to help attach it to the screwdriver. Again, once that's started, back it out, grab a clip. And we want the bubble side up, so that means you're putting the screw in through the bubble side. So bubble side is up with the head of the screw. The spoon side is with the sharp point of the screw. So again, get that started through there, and then we're gonna set that in the screw hole, and then start putting it in. Again, just so where it's on there and not flopping loose, but not so tight it can't turn without scratching it. So again, that's good, it's not floppy. Same thing over here, last one. I'm actually gonna turn it a little bit so I have a little better control. Again, find the center here, right about there. Screw head is on the edge of the wood. Tip it up. Press down while holding it straight up and down. Turning righty-tighty. It's in. I'm gonna back it out. And then I'm gonna grab my last clip. Again, screw in through the bubble side. So you can see screw, bubble, not spoon. Spoon is for the pointy bit. So I'm gonna take that and set it in the hole. And again, very light pressure. You're going to take that screw in so that it's just able to turn. All right, now we got that. The hard part's over. So now what we're gonna do is come over to the supply table, and you can actually, at this point, take your ruler and put it away. So we're gonna put the ruler away, back on the hook from where you got it. Now we're gonna grab your glass and backer board. Those are over here in a stack. If they're not there, let your teacher know. The backer board is the hard part that holds everything together, and it kind of covers up the back. The glass isn't real glass. It's a acrylic plastic that functions like glass, but it is very scratchable for right now. So on your glass, there is this protective film. It looks like it's broken. It's just a protective film. Do not take that off. Leave that on, okay? Until you get it home. Before we can finish up, we wanna make sure these actually fit. So I'm gonna test fit. When I test fit, I wanna make sure that all my clips are out of the way, off to the side, and I'm gonna set my glass in there. Now it should fit and have a little bit of wiggle room, maybe about a 1/16 of an inch of space to wiggle a little bit. That's supposed to happen. That is so that when the wood expands, especially in the summer and it gets humid, the wood will actually expand out just a little bit, and it needs that room to expand and spread out. If it was super tight right now, when this wood expanded, it would push against the plastic and it would tear the frame apart. So we're giving it a little bit of that room to wiggle here. If it does not fit where it's sticking out past the edge or past the side, you need to let your teacher know. They're gonna need to see your frame and your glass. They're gonna mark that and have to trim that on the table saw for you. So don't be like, oh, it doesn't fit. Check it. If it doesn't fit, you need to let them mark it and cut it. If this doesn't fit, that means your backer board isn't going to fit either, because they're cut at the same size. So if you test at the backer board, again, there should be a little bit of a gap there, a little bit of wiggle room to make that fit. So once we know they fit, we can put them together. So the glass is going to go in first, and then you're going to put the backer board on top of that. And then you're going to rotate your clips so that they sit on top there. If they don't fit, you can kind of loosen them up a little bit and then get them on there. So your clips, you want to go straight across like that. Once they're on there, you're going to snug them up, not super duper tight, just so they don't want to move. Like just so they don't want to move. Again, it's usually an 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn. Nothing crazy. You don't want the clip digging into your wood. Okay, so now I got it where they're not really turning. Okay, so we've got our frame from the front side. You see the glass in there and the backer board. You've got the clip on the back and the hanger. The last thing you need to do is get your name on this backer board. If you use pencil, it'll actually show up a little bit in the light, or you can use a marker. There you have a pen, something like that works. So you're gonna, again, put your first, make it nice and big so that when your teacher has to come and grade it, they can actually see it. So first, and then your full last name, and then your period number. Okay, so you can kind of see in the light, first, last, period number. You can see that in pencil. You can do that, or it's a marker on the back side. That way, when your teacher comes to grade this, they'll be ready to go. So you have successfully finished your picture frame. This is going to live in your tub until it is graded. So you cannot take this home until it has been graded by your teacher, and you will have a score written right down here out of 100, written down in one of the bottom corners there, usually over here. You have a score written out of 100 that you earned on this build. That is not your final score. Remember, you must also do the reflection. When you do the reflection, you have to take a picture of the front and the back of your frame and insert that onto the document in order to get credit for that. Okay? So make sure you follow directions. Be very careful. Any slips and scratches here are pretty much unfixable at this point, especially on the timeline that we have. So you should have your hanger, your clips, your name, first and last, period number, and the plastic should be in there with the plastic seal on, okay? Carefully, 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 you're gonna place this into your tub. Do not set it down on top of sandpaper. If there's sandpaper still in your tub, set your measurement sheet or another sheet of paper, maybe your SketchUp sheet, on top of that, and then set the back side down so that nothing can scratch the good side of your frame. Once you've got that put away, your screwdriver, your tape, and any leftover bits like paper towel all need to get put back where they belong. So if you get leftover tape, paper towel, just put those in the garbage can. Screwdriver, again, pay attention to your number. Find the number on the rack, place that gently in there. If there is a mess of the hardware, put the pieces back where they belong, and then make sure this is closed at the end of class here so we don't have pieces missing. All right. With that, again, your frame is done. It is time now to do the reflection. You will have this graded by your teacher and returned within the week usually. So good job. Congratulations. You finished a big, hard, difficult project. Be proud of yourselves. I look forward to grading them and see how you do. Good job.